All right. Hello and welcome to the first episode of GV Sports Weekly. My name is Austin Hoagland and I'm here with.
Aiden Ogrizovich.
And today we're going to be talking about a few different things. Up on the schedule this week, we have recapping last Friday's game, the Grand Valley Eagles versus the Grandview Bulldogs, previewing Grand Valley versus the Smithville Warriors, and then talking about the Chiefs and how they look this year. First thing we're going to be talking about today is recapping the Grand Valley Eagles versus the Grandview Bulldogs last Friday. The final score was 6-3 in the favor of the Eagles. It was a really run-heavy game, really between the tackles win for the Eagles. They rushed Jamore Golden over 20 times, exactly 22 rushes, and he gained 97 yards on the day. And along with that, they had Tanner Balon rush for 11 times for 81 yards. So they were really running, especially between the tackles. And you hear Grand Valley football players being interviewed. They talk a lot about physicality, and that's a word and concept that they focus on a lot. And there's nothing more physical on the offensive side of the ball than just running between the tackles, getting through guys, and getting up the field slowly and methodically. What did you think, Aiden, about the game?
It was definitely very run heavy. Grand Valley just needs to punch in the end zone here and there.
Yeah, that's the one thing that we've kind of been struggling with is definitely getting in the end zone. We can get down into field goal range, and we actually do have a really good kicker in Jack Knust, but it just seems like we can't finish the drives off and get off the field with 7 points on the board. So another really low scoring defensive effort, just putting it in on both sides of the ball for the Eagles. Some of the standout stats from the game: Tanner Balon with 11 rushes for 81 yards. Along with that, Jamore Golden rushed 22 times for 97 yards, as stated earlier. And it's definitely interesting to see how much Grand Valley is relying on the running game this year and how productive everyone's been so far in the season. What do you think, Aiden?
Yeah, they had 42 rushing attempts for 181 yards.
I mean, that's just crazy. And last week was even better. I mean, we've been running for about 200 yards every week so far, and I think that might be something that continues here against the Warriors. But with Jamore Golden out, it might be a little bit hard to get as much productivity out of the running game as we've had. Along with that, on the defensive side of the ball, William Lanier had 8.5 tackles, including 7 solo tackles. Just a really good stat line from him. He managed to wrap guys up a lot, and it turns out he is also gone for this week. He's out with some sort of knee injury, and he'll be back probably in about 2 weeks. So that's everything from the Grand Valley Eagles versus Grandview Bulldogs game. Now on to the preview of the Grand Valley Eagles versus the Smithville Warriors tonight here at Grand Valley at 7 p.m. Aiden, what are you thinking? What are your expectations and what are your hopes for this game?
I'm hoping Grand Valley can score a lot against the Smithville defense, which has not given up any points so far this season.
It's kind of crazy that Smithville has held everyone scoreless so far in the season. Grand Valley has not been exactly known for getting into the end zone, like we said it in the Grandview Bulldogs game, but they're really just trying to get the offense running, and when we're in the red zone, convert on those opportunities. Tonight would be the perfect time for us to start with those opportunities. Now that the running game is a little bit on the crutch with Jamore on definitely at least a snap count. He's injured in some kind of way in his knee and is not going to be able to do his normal over 20 rushes a game. So it might be time for Cole Keller to air it out a little bit more. So everyone come out and support Grand Valley tonight against the Warriors out here at Grand Valley High School at 7 p.m. Now on to talking about how the Chiefs look this season. We started out against the Jaguars this week 1, Sunday at 12 p.m., and we ended up getting the win. It didn't come without any cost, though, as Tyreek Hill injured his collarbone, and he's going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks, is his estimated recovery, and he will not be placed on injury reserve, which is interesting. So we're not going to open up a roster spot, so it looks like McCole Hardman might get a bit of a shine here on the Chiefs roster. Aiden, I wanted to ask you, what do you think? Can the Chiefs be as explosive without Tyreek Hill on the field?
Yes, you saw it in week one. Sammy Watkins had 9 receptions for 98 yards and 3 touchdowns. I think it lets the other players shine.
Yes, along with that, Demarcus Robinson is supposed to be back this week, so we can have a starting. If we were to put three wide receivers out on the field, those could be Tyreek Hill, Demarcus Robinson, and McCole Hardman, who will replace a little bit of the speed of Tyreek Hill, but not exactly the production. We can't expect too much out of this rookie because he is, in fact, a rookie, and as much as he shined in Georgia, he's not exactly going to be able to come out on the field and shine immediately like Sammy Watkins did week one. It was crazy to see what Watkins was able to do when he was given a lot of opportunities in week one. He was making defenders miss a lot, using special juke moves to get down the field as much as he could, and some of them even led to pretty long touchdowns. Along with that, we can't forget about Travis Kelce, who had himself a big day as well. And Patrick Mahomes seems to throw a lot to Kelce, just over the top, and there's nobody that can stop Kelce. And we can't forget that Kelce is one of the faster tight ends in the league as well. And he's very hard to take down. So he can get up the field pretty well. This is just a long distance, long ball team that can, hit you a bunch of different ways and somehow manage to score almost every time, almost every drive. There was actually about, I think, one punt in the game, the whole game for the Chiefs. We were up so much in the fourth quarter that we had to sub Matt Moore in out of fear of Patrick Mahomes himself getting injured, who had himself a little bit of a scare with his ankle. Along with that, during the game, there was a lot of fighting between players, and it led to Miles Jack getting ejected after he was fighting some of the Chiefs players and even threw a punch, which is an automatic ejection in the NFL. So we'll see how that goes for them. In the game, Nick Foles actually got injured, and he also had a collarbone injury, which is interesting that he and Tyreek Hill had the same injury, but he was also injured, and he's going to be out until week 11 is his estimated recovery date. And the Jaguars have put him on injury reserve, and Gardner Minshew, who saw his first NFL snaps in the Chiefs game, is going to be starting for them going forward. Gardner Minshew had himself a pretty big day and only threw one interception. He also threw a touchdown, and he looked to be pretty mobile and like he could make some throws down the field. So, now on to talking about the game versus the Raiders this Sunday at 3:25. What did you see out of the Raiders week one against the Broncos, Aiden?
I saw a good Derek Carr, 22 for 26, passing 259 yards and a touchdown. And I saw the rookie Josh Jacobs have himself a day with 23 carries, 85 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs actually had over 100 yards scrimmage total, including receiving yards. And it was crazy to see what Derek Carr could do when his offensive line was actually supporting him. Last year, the Raiders' offensive line was pretty bad to say the least, and Derek Carr did not shine at all last season. And now many are saying that Derek Carr may have looked at his very best even after his little 2016 MVP candidate stint just this last week against the Broncos. And the Broncos have a pretty scary defensive line with Bradley Chubb and Von Miller, but neither were able to get a sack off. Meanwhile, the Raiders' defensive line and just their defense in general, who had the least amount of sacks last year in the entire NFL, were getting to Joe Flacco a lot. And they were pressuring him, and they got a few sacks off. It was crazy to see the Raiders' defensive line be more productive than the Broncos' defensive line. This year, the Chiefs' offensive line has been looking pretty good, just about as good as last year. But at the same time, it might be hard to hold back some people who we don't exactly have the most film on and aren't like people that we specifically game plan for. So we're just making general game plans, and they might be able to get something off. But it's going to be interesting to see how our new and improved defensive line with Frank Clark and Okafor manages to try to pressure Derek Carr if the offensive line plays as good as it did week 1. Along with that, the Raiders, Jonathan Abrams is their new rookie safety who they drafted in the first round, is actually going to be out. He injured himself, and so now it looks like he's going to be out for the season. He was a really hard-hitting safety who did a lot for them week 1. And with a weakened secondary, it might be time for the Chiefs to take advantage of that and do what they've always been known for doing, which is throw down the field and get off the field as quickly as possible. Let the defense slow it down if they need to, and slow the game down. And maybe towards the end of the game, we'll slow it down on the offense as well. Just do a little bit of running, get Damian Williams involved. McCoy looked really good week 1. And what do you think we are going to see out of LeSean McCoy this season, Aiden?
I feel like he will become the starting running back this season. That is my prediction.
Yeah, and it looks like even though he was slowing down with the Bills the last few years, and people are kind of doubting Shady as a reliable number 1 option, that he was able to silence some of the critics week 1, and even when he wasn't given as many opportunities, he's splitting the time with Damian Williams, and luckily he doesn't have to split any time with Carlos Hyde as the Chiefs traded him. But LeSean McCoy kind of proved himself that if he's given the opportunities, he can run between the tackles. He's going to lower his head. He's going to lower his shoulders, and he's just going to push through. So if we need those tough few yards on third down, and maybe it's not looking like passing is the best option, just going to somebody reliable in Shady McCoy, which is exactly what this Chiefs offense needs, a reliable running back who we can count on to get us those extra tough few yards. And it just looks like this entire team has a lot of fight this year. It looks like we're very motivated. It looks like we're ready to go, even without Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, some people forget, was actually out for a few weeks last season. And so I really feel like, and so was Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins was out a few weeks last season. So it's not like the Chiefs are immune to injuries. It's not like their wide receiving core has been immune to injuries for the last few years. It's not like Patrick Mahomes hasn't had has had all his weapons at every single point of every season, including last season. No, he's had to work with less. And after Kareem Hunt was left, some people were doubting whether Patrick Mahomes would keep on the role that he was on, because Kareem Hunt was such a reliable receiving option as well as a running option, obviously. But he managed to push through, and he just as good in the last few weeks of the season as he did in the first few weeks. So it's going to be interesting to see how Patrick Mahomes plays and what his stats look like and what Sammy's stats look like and what McColl's stats look like, especially after Tyreek Hill went down. And we have the next 4 to 6 weeks where we don't exactly have the hardest schedule. The team that I'm a little bit more afraid of facing would probably have to be the Ravens, who looked really good week 1 against a Dolphins team who seems to be tanking. They are going to be trading away Minka Fitzpatrick, who might be one of their best young defensive players. Dolphins don't look that great, but Lamar Jackson just looked like an absolute stud. The Ravens defense looked amazing, and Mark Ingram as a running back just looks like he could have over 1,000 yards 100% this season. So the Ravens look a bit scary. They look even better than last year, and they were a playoff team last year. They got eliminated by the Chargers, but they definitely were a possible contender last year, even after they switched quarterbacks halfway through the season. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Chiefs play against them and how we go these next 4 to 6 weeks without Tyreek, without somebody who the defense of the other team has to specifically game plan around. Now they have to game plan to try to take out Travis Kelce, and if they don't have to worry about game planning Tyreek Hill out, maybe they can focus a little bit more attention on that. But there's so many weapons on the field that we have that I doubt that they can take away everybody from us, and the young guys can step up. So that is everything from the All Around KC Chiefs segment, and we are transitioning into the conclusion. I want to to invite all of you guys to tune in next week when we recap the Grand Valley Eagles versus Smithville Warriors game and preview the next game for you. And we will talk about the Chiefs versus Raiders game, just previewing, recapping, doing everything as always. And this has been GV Sports Weekly, and this is Austin signing off. Aiden, any last words?
Tune in next week.
Alrighty, see you guys.